searched the coast of Europe like fierce eagles. Between Low Flushing and deep-harbored Cherbourg, our eyes sought out the place of the assault. Exits and tidal range marked shallow Flushing off. Sand and the wind cancelled the Belgian coast. The North Seine beaches were too small, and cliffs barred the approaches. Cotentin, too narrow. The Pas de Calais, heavily defended. It all resolved on Normandy, on Caux. There planes could land upon the carpet ground, the coast defenses were more light, and tides had a good range, and men were safe from winds.
This is Widerstandsnest 48, or better known as the gun battery at Longues Sur Mer here on the coast of Normandy. And in this episode of World War II Wayfinder, I'm going to take you on a guided tour of the gun battery here and see what remains of this formidable German position. Now, each of the casemates here, the four casemates for the guns, is an M272 Regelbau, or standard design casemate, and each one took 600 cubic meters of concrete and 4 tons of reinforcing steel to make it, and that's an incredible amount. The walls and the roofs are over 2 meters thick, so they were really capable of withstanding naval gunfire, artillery fire onto their positions here. Now, construction here at Longues Sur Mer for Widerstandsnest 48 began at the start of 1944 and took 4 months to complete, so that by the time of the invasion on the 6th of June 1944, this gun battery here atop the cliffs at Longues Sur Mer was fully operational. Now, the armament in each of the casemates here at Longues Sur Mer was a 150mm C-36 naval gun, manufactured by the Skoda works in Pilsen in Czechoslovakia. And when they were operational here on the morning of D-Day, they had the capability of firing between 6 and 8 rounds per minute out to a range of 20 kilometers, which is approximately 12 miles. So the gun battery here at Longues Sur Mer really did pose a very real threat to the naval forces heading into Gold Beach here on D-Day. Now, one thing that's really great about this site is all of the cannons here are the original ones from the war, and we can still see the rifling in the barrels, and then the manufacturer's stamping on the barrels themselves. It's all still present. And from here you can get a real idea of just how thick the walls and the ceilings were on these bunkers. So from the 4 casemates, we'll now head down to the M262A fire control bunker. The bunker itself is positioned right on the edge of the cliffs, and it was there where the targets would be called in to the guns via the armoured telephone lines that would then dial into the casemates. The gunners there would then get their fire control orders and then start lobbing shells out to sea. And also of interest with this fire control bunker is it features in the longest day. Major Pluskat is in there, and he sees the Allied invasion for the first time and then starts getting hit with artillery shells. And it's great that it's got that connection to that film, because The Longest Day, if you've got an interest in D-Day, is probably one in your DVD collection, or you've seen it many times. And I think the fact that they filmed it here, obviously knowing everything that happened here on D-Day as well, just makes that film all that more special. And here it is. This is the fire control bunker at Longues Sur Mer, and you can see the view back in 1944 would have been even more incredible than it is today, because all this foliage would have been cut back, it wouldn't have been allowed to grow. But yeah, quite an incredible view from this position here. Now, just to give you an idea of what it's like to be in here, I'm 6 foot and my head is touching the ceiling here. And when you go out, take you out, you really have to duck, because it is a low ceiling. Now, back in the day, before they modernised this site, you were actually able to gain entry to it via the original ladder, but now there's a series of steps and walkways to it. But at one point you were able to climb up the proper way to it, which was always an amazing experience. But again, you can see from the walls here just how thick the concrete was used in the construction of this place. And for the attacking forces, as you've seen in all the other German positions, there's all these embrasures here for machine guns, probably MG34s, that would be positioned in and around here, ready to greet anybody trying to come down those stairs. And now, having moved inside, this is the other part, the lower section of the bunker. Now, the view today is severely obstructed by all of the growth around here in the post-war years, but it gives you a good idea of just how claustrophobic it must have been in here on D-Day, seeing the Allied invasion fleet out there and knowing that you were going to be getting the good news as soon as those naval guns opened fire. So here's that embrasure for the MG34 from the other side. Definitely not a site to visit if you are a little bit claustrophobic or not a fan of the dark. But still incredible that you can gain access to these sites 80 years later and get a bit of a feel for what it would have been like for the average German soldier manning these positions here on the morning of the 6th of June 1944. Now, just to give you an idea of the commanding view that the gun battery here at Longues Sur Mer would have had, we're just going to walk a little bit toward the east, past the casemates, past the fire control bunker that we've just seen, and take you to the edge of the cliffs, and we'll come to the extreme western flank of Gold Beach. And the view is incredible from the position here at Longues Sur Mer. So if you are coming to Normandy, if you want to explore the coastline, Longues Sur Mer is definitely one of the places that you must see. And here is the view in front of me of Arromanches, that sector of Gold Beach where the Mulberry Harbour was and still remains to this day, where we can see the component parts of it still sat there in the English Channel as a permanent testimony to the events that took place here 80 years ago. And it just shows you what an incredible position Longues Sur Mer truly is, if you're lucky enough to be able to come here and see it for yourself.
Across the channel, aware of our resolve, with cold contempt, alerted Germans stood beside their guns, and reinforcements rumbled from the Rhine. Their generals were prepared, their might was poised. They looked across the heaving sea and grinned. They would reap harvest of us on the beaches, and even Death himself would stand amazed.
Through all the days of preparation, Allied planes, thousands of them, continued to soften enemy defenses and communications in daily raids.
Let me break in at this point to say just a word about the Navy. From the moment of embarkation to that of landing, the full burden fell upon the Navy and our merchant fleets. They had to sweep the mines, bombard the coastal batteries, marshal and protect the transports along the coastline preparatory to landing, and, finally, man the small boats that carried the soldiers to the beach. On that day, there were more than 8,000 ships and landing craft on the shores of Normandy. It was a most intricate task and a vital one for the success of our plans. The courage, fidelity, and skill of the Royal and American Navies have no brighter page in their histories than that of June 6, 1944.
Also scattered throughout the site here are the site defensive positions. So this spot here was for a German mortar, and there's also other 20mm flat gun positions and other smaller caliber cannons. I think 120mm and 276mm cannons were planned to defend the site here. Now sadly you can't actually access this one, it's closed off, but you can walk to the edge of it here, which is still really good to see. And here's a bigger position, I think, for a 20mm flat gun. As you can tell by the diameter of the hole there, it's much larger than the mortar pit. Now here is one of the ammo storage bunkers, and we can still gain access to it. So we'll go down and take a look. And it is basically pitch black in here again, so not for the faint-hearted, and it's also full of water, which you can maybe hear. So yeah, but still incredible, and still in such good condition. Parts of it almost look like it was made 5 years ago rather than 80 years ago. It's incredible.
I was sitting in front of the intelligence office doing a bit of sunbathing when headquarters came through saying the area northwest of Mortain was packed with German armour heading west. Well, that started it. For 6 hours the wind kept it up absolutely non-stop. Take off, attack, land, refuel, rearm and take off again. It was the same on every airfield in Normandy. The only briefing I gave the chaps was, well, you know where they are. And the only interrogation when they got back was, well, how many did you get?
So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of World War II Wayfinder. If you have, please consider liking the episode and subscribing if you haven't already done so. Okay, I will see you all in the next one.